Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, your host for the House of Hardcore podcast, Tommy Dreamer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the House of Hardcore podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Dreamer, and this week, my guest, Impact Wrestling's own Raj Singh. Raj, what's going on, bud?
Hey, Tommy, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Interested to have you on for a bunch of reasons, but get to that in a bit. I ask everybody, the first question is, what got you hooked into this wonderful world of professional wrestling?
I think, I'm not sure if you're familiar with my story or not, but it's a little bit different for me, I guess. I was actually born into wrestling. My dad, Gama Singh, was in Stampede when I was born, and he was traveling, working for WWF at the time as well. And my earliest memories are in the locker room, Stampede wrestling. I was always in the ring, dying, waiting for the show to end so I can hop in the ring. And I just knew I was always going to be a wrestler. And doesn't matter what I did, what sport I played in, what sport I excelled in, I was always reverting back to, I want to wrestle. And having three brothers, all we ever did was watch dad on TV, watch WWF, watch ECW, watch WCW. And then I can't wait to just finish school and get in the ring. And that's all it was. Like, I was just super television. So it's like not an exciting answer, but the fact that I was born into it, it's all I was always around. It's all I ever wanted to do.
Oh, I mean, I knew you're a second generation wrestler, correct?
Yeah.
And I knew that, and I had figured as much, but yeah, we never really talked your whole story. But I mean, you were also there for like the good Stampede, the really, really cool stuff. So I'm sure you grew up watching some amazing pro wrestling. I mean, live, best seat in the house.
It was the best. Like, I'm watching, my dad was a top heel at the time, and we had Bad News Allen, who was also there at the time, a vicious villain in the kayfabe days where we couldn't even sit in the crowd because people would throw things at my mom just for being Gama Singh's wife. And we weren't allowed to sit in the venue. So we were always sitting in the back behind the curtain watching. And then we got to see guys like the Dynamite Kid, Davey Boy Smith, Brett, Owen, Keith, Bruce at the time, Brian Pillman. Everybody was a good wrestler. So we never really got to see bad matches. And that's what also got us hooked too. Because I'm like, everyone's so good. Everyone's so cool. And it was hardcore.
Now, let me ask you, because we just saw that at a NBA game where the fans started healing, or he claims they were bothering his son and his wife. That was, you're the rival sports team, but it was your dad's job to go out there and get people really, really pissed at the crowd. And I know he did it. I barely watched any Stampede. I just never got it.
Yeah.
But I always heard about it through wrestling magazines. And, but I mean, how are you reacting as a kid? This is your dad, somebody you love, but yet he's going out there and riling up people to want to kill him.
It was confusing at first because I was like, what the heck? Like, don't these people, to me, he was my dad. He's a nice guy, great guy at home, disciplined me when he had to. But when he's on TV, he's always like vicious and violent. And it wasn't until he smartened me up. But when he smartened me up, I was like, okay, cool. I actually enjoy this. I want people to throw things at us. I want them to hate the whole family. That's cool. But before that, I was actually like, I'm a little kid, and we're concerned because, again, like, my mom had to have security walking her around. And, looking back, I see it as like, wow, he must have done a really good job, or just the fans were that big of idiots that they didn't care.
Well, I don't know the area, but was it predominantly white in the audience? Or it's easy to spot your mom with, being Indian and having three boys that are Indian. Yeah. It's somebody on the show's kid,
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it was predominantly white. And it was also a different time where racial slurs were thrown on TV as part of the agitation towards, the heel.
Yeah,
Stuff that would never fly today. That's for sure.
No, I mean, I watch so much wrestling. Again, I wish someone would release Stampede Library. You don't really hear much about it. I know WWE had bought some of it, but there's a lot of good stuff. You go down that YouTube wormhole. But yeah, I mean, political acceptance today, there was a ton by the baby faces, not only the heels, but mainly the baby faces, cutting racist promos towards the bad guys to get the crowd to cheer, because like you said, the audience is 80%, in favor. But I mean, it's not so much racist. It's like, we support whatever the good guy says.
100%. And I remember like the fans, like, I mean, I still watch some of the old stuff. Like I have a bunch of DVDs from my dad, whatever. Like using the P word against my dad was what the fans would chant. They would go home P word over and over and over again. And the loophole for them to be allowed to say it on TV was they announced my dad from Karachi, Pakistan, because the P word is, the first four letters of Pakistan. So that's why instead of saying he's from India, they'll say Pakistan. So and then all the fans would say it, and whoever the baby face was would start getting the crowd going, and it was on TV. And back then it was kind of normal, I guess.
Dude, I remember the homophobic slur of the F word and baby faces clapping and making effeminate gestures at the heels, and you'd have thousands of people doing it, and it was just because we support what this baby face is doing. It's insane to go back and watch all that stuff, but glad that the business and society has progressed, because you also got to be, if you're going to be a heel, a smarter heel, which is very, very cerebral.
Absolutely. And it educates us all. And then it forces us as wrestlers to educate ourselves on more things in the world, so that we're not just come out there and using derogatory terms and stuff like that. So
we're on a very, very deep dive outside of we haven't even started. You've begun this, but it's a great listen and a great thing to go. It's because you're becoming tolerant, and I've watched things on YouTube that have happened with like Hall of Famers, like things that they've done, and then people, but it's a wrestling angle, and but people don't understand. Like I always talk about this, the movie where the guy went to jail, he curb stomped the dude.
American History X.
Yeah, American History X, and he's a straight up, he portrays a racist, and then he changes, and but he was an actor portraying that. Like, your dad is his job to get people to play the villain, but yet it's like, how far do you go nowadays? But people, they do edit movies now, but how far would people willing to go, or just really touch it to be that type of heel? Because I mean, if you think about if this was today, no one would scream that because they knew it would be offensive now. So that's why I got to be a better villain, a smarter villain. So anyway, I could go on a deep dive about your dad, because I love your dad. Ever since I met him, and I was just like, Don Callis was the first to put him over to me, because again, I never saw it. And then I've watched so much stuff, or whenever I come across his stuff, I usually send it to you. And I was just like, damn, look at his body. Damn, he was jacked. Like, because again, I only met the older man.
Right.
And we exchanged war stories, and then going through wrestling magazines, I'll see him here or see him there. And George Napolitano always puts over what a great human being your father is. So that's a really, really cool thing to smarten me up to what, he meant to a lot of people. And, I like I told you, I saw him in IWA, just a complete enhancement talent. But I was like, look at this guy's body. Why are they not doing anything with him? But it is what it is. That's the wrestling business. All right. So how do you get started?
So I actually played hockey. And I was not to brag here, but I was a high level hockey player. And
This is all about you. Brag as much as you want.
I just try to keep it humble, otherwise you'll stumble at some point. I had opportunities to play in the NCAA and junior hockey, and I was dealing with a bunch of injuries. And like I said, I was always thinking about wrestling, and hockey just came easy to me. So it's tough. It's strange to say. A bunch of my friends and stuff went on to go play in the NHL, but I was like, I just don't want to do that. I want to wrestle. And I was, we were all on the same team. I was one of the top guys in the city, top guys in the country. And then I was like, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to college in the States and then play hockey. I'm just going to start wrestling. And I got hurt playing hockey. And then I took like about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then I talked to my dad, and he's like, well, bad news, Alan's starting a school. And he's going to start training people. And he started training my cousin, Jinder. And he's like, do you want to go train with Raj? And I was like, maybe I'll go check it out. Maybe I'll go check it out, but we'll see. And then as the days went on, I was like, okay, I'm going to say no to this contract, to this scholarship. And then I started training, and right away, like, hit the ground running. And then Bad News was only running classes like once a week kind of thing. And we had Jerry Morrill from Stampede Wrestling as well, and Johnny Smith doing classes. So then I was in the ring every day. I wasn't going the once a week. I just went in right away. And I was, of course, lucky enough with my dad that my dad pulled some strings and called Johnny and Jerry, said, take Junior. And they all called me Junior because for whatever reason. And then I was in the ring every day. And just within a handful of months, I was working, and I never looked back. I never looked back. So it was just, I put the hockey stick down, picked up some wrestling shoes, and right away went into the ring with Bad News.
How old were you?
I was 19.
Do you regret it?
No, not at all. I don't regret it. I do regret the part of not going to school and just finishing the school, because you can always get the degree, or you can always learn to wrestle after you get the degree. So, and I think, well, maybe I could have had like a whole NHL career, a few years, and then wrestle. But I don't think about it like that, because I'm very, like the whole sliding doors concept or the butterfly effect. Had I done something differently, who knows? Maybe my cousin wouldn't have gone on to become a wrestler and progress into his career, and then he doesn't become a WWE champion, and then the whole trajectory of that industry is different. So I have that mentality.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah. And I also, like with my brothers, I was more like the sports guy and always doing things, trying to get them into stuff. And they were all video game guys. And I don't regret it, because there was things that I've done in my life that others don't experience. Like I was traveling the world at 21 years old, wrestling for Carlos Colon, wrestling in South Africa, wrestling in Lebanon, the Middle East. And I'd come back and share those stories with people and motivate others to get into the business, or motivate others to do things and chase their dreams. So in that sense, I don't regret it. No.
Now, I went and I researched your dad, and I knew WWE would go to the Middle East a lot during the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your dad was a mainstay on these tours.
Right.
Was he a heel or a babyface?
He was a babyface over there, and he was a heel when they would do their shows in Toronto.
Nice. Because like I saw, and I was also reading Andre the Giant's book, and he said Sheik Adnan El Casey, would book him. And when they were working, he was actually working for what's his name, Saddam Hussein, and, because that's El Casey. El Casey went to school with Hussein, and like they have this big thing, and then they basically, Andre finds out that if Hussein, like they tell him that to El Casey that don't worry, because they believe in it, it's 100% real, that if he does anything, they'll kill him. And Andre legit gets beat by, I think it was 2 out of 3 falls too. 2 out of 3 falls, he loses the first 2, and he's out.
Yeah, got to do the job, or you're going to do the ultimate job, and someone's going to kill you.
And dude, me reading that, I was just like, wait, Andre's been pinned before? But the caveat in my Mark brain has been he wasn't Andre the Giant yet. He was Giant Farrar or Andre Rusimov, all these other things, but he was not Andre the Giant yet. So that's how I have to justify it. Hey there, auto mechanics and super cool do-it-yourself guys who work on their own cars. I want to tell you about rockauto.com, the online store with every auto part at the best prices. This is your one-stop shop for everything auto parts. Rockauto.com has been in business for 20 years, and they make it easy to find parts you need at the best possible prices. No more talking to counter guys who need to order your parts, aren't really sure what you're looking for, never have quite what you need, and then after all that hassle, will still charge you storefront markups. At rockauto.com, you can easily find everything you need, and whether you're a mechanic, an auto shop, or working on your own car, everyone has access to the same incredible pricing at rockauto.com. So if you're a car guy, right now go to rockauto.com and check out all the parts available for your car. You're going to have so much fun looking at car parts. So once more, go to rockauto.com. No promo code needed as their pricing is already that good. When you order, make sure you tell rockauto.com that you heard about them right here on the House of Hardcore podcast. Rockauto.com. Let's get back to it. All right. So you're doing a bunch of indies, you're traveling, which is really, really cool. And then how does Impact happen for you? That I'm assuming Impact is your biggest break in the biz so far.
Impact is the biggest break. Yes. So I'd gone for a few tryouts and been called in to be an extra a bunch of times. And they signed my cousin on the spot.
WWE?
Yeah, WWE. Okay. They call my cousin, they sign him on the spot. And they tell me, they're like, you guys, great tag team, blah, blah, blah. We'll look at you, come back with something. They bring me in for another tryout. This is around 2012. And they say, hey, we got the Indian thing. Can you come up with something? We like the way you work. Can you come up with something, bring it to the table? So I actually start getting down on myself and, going into like a line of depression because all I wanted was to be in the business. And it's like heartbreaking because all my buddies are getting like breaks and stuff and I'm not getting it. And at the time I felt like I'm a good enough worker to have the opportunity and I had a good body and stuff. So I was like, damn, what am I missing? So I come up with a full on Puerto Rican salsa dancer gimmick. Like I shave my head, shave the beard. I come out, I'm doing salsa. My guy's the ultimate jobber. He does not care about winning. He cares about girls and he cares about dancing in the ring. His name is Fabian Ribeiro, the Stamina Papi. So I completely come up with something new, speaking broken English, speaking some Spanish on the mic, salsa dancing. WWE likes the idea. They say, come on in for a tryout. They say, hey, but grow the beard and bring the turban with you. I'm like, all right, sweet. So I do that. So I did that gimmick for about 2 years. And then WWE brings me in for tryout and they say, we want to work with you. And we have plans for doing some stuff in India. I say, okay, cool. I was working an office job at the time. And then I get a phone call from Impact and I say, hey, can we get your dad's contact? Because Don Callis didn't have my dad's number. He just had the house line. He didn't have my dad's cell. So then he's like, hey, they get in touch. My dad goes to Impact. And then Don's like, hey, we're looking for Indian guys for Impact. I know I've seen your work, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, Don, I appreciate the call, but WWE wants to work with me. He's like, oh, sweet. Congrats. They bring my dad in. And then WWE tells me we're going to look a little bit longer. Okay, we got plans. And then Don called and said, don't waste your time. He's like, we're here. You're a good talent. Let's have you look, give you a look. So then I wrestled in front of Scott at a show. And then I get a phone call. And I actually started going back and forth for a little bit with the executive in WWE that I was dealing with. And I just told them, I was like, I'm going to go to a place where I'm wanted as opposed to just, they're dangling the carrot kind of because they know that I'm chasing it. And I basically became too desperate that they just dangled the carrot for me. And then I was given the opportunity to come to Impact. And right then and there, Scott and Don had offered me a deal for a few years. And the fact that I got to be on screen with my dad was like the icing on the cake. They're like, it'll be you and your dad. Like your dad's not here for 1 or 2 days just to like push some Indian market. Like we want your dad here. And my dad was already on screen with Gursinder and Rohit at the time. So then, I made the jump over, and that's where I've been since.
One of Don's, where he still talks about one of his favorite shoots of all time, is putting your father on a horse or a donkey.
Yeah.
And your father riding it backwards.
That's right. Yeah.
Like totally going out of seed with it. I'm part of all this, but I'm not at the shoot. But like then Scott has to try to find someone who has a horse and like all this stuff that you guys had shot. But Don, because Don has so much respect for your dad.
Yeah.
And which is shocking because Don respects nobody. So that's kudos and high praise.
Yeah.
But that's also because in crazy Don mind, it's your father was a villain, and your father was a villain that went out there always to be the villain. And you had mentioned so many, like everybody says, I never saw him, Jerry Morrow. Everyone says what a great friggin' worker he was. Your dad, Bad News. These are all guys who like Don, because Don wants to be that villain all the time. Anyway, but like, that's how all this went down. It's amazing when you talked about the whole butterfly effect and everything. I 100% get it, because it's just like, if you went to WWE, that may never have happened for you. You may never have even been acknowledged with your dad on television, which that is a cool friggin' thing, you know? And it's just, everything happens for a reason. And I'm glad that happened for you. Because I mean, you look at Jinder. Jinder didn't have at first the best career. Hell, I beat him when I returned on one night in WWE. So you know how low on the scale he was. Yeah. When an outsider, I didn't even work there, and they came in. I got to work with him, and then he totally reinvents himself.
Yeah.
And he was always that same guy, except for basically, I want to say physically. And he totally reconstructed his body. And he finally got that opportunity, which I still don't know why he's not. I don't know anything about what's going on with him, but I don't know why he's still not in that top guy status. But
yeah.
That's when I interview him. So, but that is cool. And then I didn't know any of this about the NXT stuff, which is another cool thing that you said. Number one, mental health, because it is very, very pressing, because like you said, you want this, but they're not giving you a definitive answer as well. I mean, they have enough money just to sign you to bring you down to the PC to do nothing with you.
Yeah.
Or it's like, do I have a real job? Do I quit? Am I not good enough? Like there's all these things I'm sure that were going through your head, and then you get another opportunity. And that's like, it's a saving grace but a lot of people don't get that. And a lot of people also, they wait for that dangling carrot, and then you wait 2 years. Oh, by the way, you're too old now, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. And the thing for me too is just like, so my dad and I and my brothers, we have like money invested in properties, and I own a ball hockey league, men's league in Calgary. So I'm the commissioner for that. And that's my bread and butter throughout the year. And I'm like, man, I got to give all this up, and I'm willing to do it at the drop of a hat. But at the same time, I'm willing to do that. Like I would wrestle with the thought all the time. I'm willing to drop all of this for a company that will forget about me in 5 seconds. And they might even forget about me in 5 seconds while I'm on the roster. So I'm just like, yeah, it's like, again, we love it so much. Wrestlers are crazy. You know this. We're all crazy. That's the one thing. So much passion, so much devotion to wanting to make it that we sometimes forget about the real life things, and it can take an emotional toll on people. And I'm not afraid to say it. I reached out for help in times of depression, and I spoke to counselors and things like that, because it's very important. I'm a big advocate for that, and I take no shame in admitting that. And I'm a big advocate that if somebody's feeling down, any negative thoughts, you want to quit, you want to give up, you go and see somebody. Go and talk to a family member first if you need to. If you feel that you're going to get judged, speak to somebody. And then that is actually what rejuvenated me and pushed me to the next level, to just fully commit to, again, getting in shape, getting everything right. And then going to Impact Wrestling.
It's funny we say that for alcoholics, drug addicts. What do they always say? If you're going to relapse, call your sponsor. But when it's mental health, it's not like, well, you're supposed to call somebody. You're supposed to call somebody for help. It's the same type of issue where you're in crisis. You need help. It's if you really break it down that simple, you get hurt, you fall down, or you can't get up, or you cut yourself really, really bad. You call 911. Hey, I need a doctor. It's the same exact thing.
Right, exactly.
Across the board. And I don't know why. I think I hate to say it, but I think it's more of a masculine thing where it's like, oh no, well, you can't, because of years of people not talking about it, but more that these conversations talk about it. You literally, I know straight up, I've had people reach out to me online, and I will always say, reach out to somebody, and people are like, holy shit, I never thought that like Tommy Dreamer would answer and I was like, okay, well, I'm a human being and you're someone in crisis. We've all been there, and we learn from, I guess, life experiences that life can get better throughout. Or it may not be, your fault. And I don't want to say fault, but like, hey, there's chemical imbalances with people. There's all different things that are making you feel this way. And there's people that can help out there. So it's really, really cool that you said that. And again, other shit that I didn't know about you. So now I like you even more, minus you never any of my baseball trade opportunities to you. But that's
hey, I hooked you up with Vladdy Guerrero last year, and then I just ended up at the bottom, so I can't get bitten twice.
I'll job you about fantasy. I won't job about anything else except for fantasy baseball. Anyway, so then I remember, because it's another shitty part about your career life. Well, you get hurt.
Yeah.
And things were going pretty damn good for you.
Yeah.
On television all the time. And then you get hurt. You blow out your knee?
Yes, sir. My ACL and LCL and my meniscus. And that sucked because I played hockey my whole life. No major injuries, nothing. Like, I had a bad shoulder, but I just pop it back in. And actually, I don't know if you noticed, on my first day at Impact, I dislocated my shoulder in the segment, but nobody knew. I didn't tell anybody. Don found out like maybe on like the second or third loop. I told him, but if you watch it again, I'll send you the clip later. I go to, because that's when you guys had Rohit and Gama doing the match. And I come in, jump Rohit, boom. Wow, this is a test. You're with my son. But I go and I give him that gut buster. Like, I have him in the fireman's carry, the gut buster. But I was wearing my jacket, the traditional Indian jacket. So as Rohit pushes off, my jacket gets stuck and pulls my shoulder down. So it just pops right out. And I sort of botched the gut buster. And I'm like, oh, frick. And I can't move my arm. So I'm going to send you the clip, and you'll see my arm is literally just dangling there and I can't move it. And I'm like, thank God it was just a gut buster. And then my dad does the rest. So I go, we have a match. I actually tell people I call myself Shockmaster Singh for the start because of that. And then, and then I have a bad match in Vegas on the next loop. You walk up to me, because you were always, one thing, you were always very cool to me. And you came in like, word of advice, word of encouragement, do this better. And you did that from day one, and you didn't know me and you didn't have to. And I'm forever thankful for that. In Vegas, I have a match, a good match, then a shitty match, one of the worst in my life. And you turn around and you're just like, it wasn't that good. Sharpen some things up. Let's go over it again. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
And then I start dedicating myself. I get my friend to buy a ring. My buddy's got mad money. I get my friend to buy a ring. I'm like, buy a ring. I need to be in the ring every day. No more BS. So he gets the ring, we get the space, and I'm in, and we start on upwards trajectory. Yes, we're not winning on TV, but it's not about that. It's about putting on the show and instilling confidence with the production team and the office to want to use us and have the boys in the ring be like, I trust Raj. I want to work with Raj. This is a guy I want to work with. That's what I'm about, because I love this business. And as things are rolling, Shara comes back. It looks like they want to push the Desi Hit Squad. And my knee pops while I'm training in the ring, literally a day before we're supposed to go to Mexico. And I'm just like, I'm shattered at this point, because now I'm getting the break and I start to go up. And then it was an emergency thing where I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just go to Mexico. Like, I popped my knee back in. It got locked. Actually, what was happening, I was stretching and it got locked. And I hobbled into my car, go to the doctor. He unlocks my knee and I go to put my winter boot back on and my knee popped again. He's like, you need emergency surgery. He's like, we got to go get it right now. But then that's when COVID hit. So I got pushed back 3 months. So I'm literally sitting there getting depressed, watching Impact, playing Madden, and just waiting for surgery, calling every day. Hey, is there cancellation? I'll come to the hospital right now. I had friends that are doctors and a cousin that's a doctor. I'm like, yo, bro, if there's a cancellation, I will drive over it within the hour.
Right.
So I had to like that. Yeah.
In the greatest story that's never been told too, with Rich Swann breaks his ankle, needs surgery, totally messed up. COVID hits as well. They not only blow off his surgery, he finally gets his surgery and then he can't rehab it because no rehab place are open. So he has to rehab his own leg.
Right.
He has to teach himself how to friggin' walk. But these are, the times that we have. And, Canada was, I don't want to say insane, but super protective of COVID. And, you hear good and bad about it. But I also know about, the whole, when you have government medical plan and all that stuff, you have to, wait in line when it's not life threatening. And, it's all these other things they're fine about.
Yeah.
So you just sit around and wait. But then it's the comeback and you've come back better than ever. And you've also you dedicated yourself. I remember when you first came back, I was like, holy shit, dude, you're in great shape.
Yeah.
And, it's cool that I do remember, listen, I always saw something in you and it wasn't because of, I knew nothing about your dad. I just saw something in you that this guy has something to offer the industry. And then if you think about, because I'm always hands-on with, I'm very hands-on with Bhupinder, but which is always really evolved around you. And now I'm just I have Raj there. I know it's going to get the job done. So everything that I knew that I had seen in you is already there because I know I don't have to exactly what you just said about wrestlers wanting to say that about you, somebody that you grew up watching. I already see that in you because you do it for me. And it's all right, I know I have him. And to the point where I wanted to work with you and Shira and all that stuff, but just things got pushed back.
Yeah.
But we'll have a massive feud and I won't say anything bad I won't use any of those old school racist terms. We'll have to be more intelligent. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I think it's really, really cool to, I'm just telling you as, performer to peer that you've already accomplished those things because I mean, how many times do I rely on you? All right, come back to me later. Cause I know it's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, and you instill that trust in me and that actually gives me an extra confidence to do what I want to do and take those extra chances in a ring and take those extra chances in a promo. And it's and you didn't have to do that. You would go out of your way, even in the restaurant in Mexico. You see me and my dad sitting there. You're like, yo, let me talk to you for a sec. And you gave me you cut a full on promo. Do this time, next time, bah, 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 bah. Full on swears and stuff. And I don't swear in front of my dad. My dad, quiet little guy, and you're full on swearing. And then at the end, but overall, good job. All right, enjoy your food. I'll see you tomorrow. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. But it was and that kind of stuff, it sticks. I'm not trying to kiss your ass on count on your show here, but I'm that kind of stuff helps motivate a guy like me because also I'm from Canada, who has literally the shittiest indies in the world. You're doing one show in Calgary every 2 weeks, one in Edmonton every week, and all the American guys all know each other. So they're all buddy. And I'm just literally the new guy coming in saying, hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? I see you guys only at the loops, really. And you went out of your way to make sure I was comfortable as well. But you also wanted the best for me, which would in turn make the show better.
Well, I want that for everybody. And I always say this, about me. I understand why I am the way I am. One, it's because of loss, but also we all strive perfection as well as I've had some amazing coaches. I literally, and I've told you this, I come back through a curtain and there's my boss, Paul Heyman. telling me how to be better. There's Terry Funk. There's another guy, Mick Foley. Mick Foley helped me for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's that same thing. I want to, and I have been giving it back. And yes, it is for the show, but it's also for the individual, because I hate you do it. Oh, you did everything great. No, I didn't. And, you know, I've used this, you coming from a sports background, you understand it. You have a coach. Hey, you could score 3 goals in a game, but then, hey, you missed a play and the guy scored a goal because of you.
100%.
I'm going to tell you when you do bad, but I'm also going to praise you when you do good. And that's honesty. And in a business that we don't really receive that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, what's wrong with your performance? Or you did. I normally now just go, this was bad, the rest was good. Not for you, just for everybody. Or if it was all bad, I will say it was all bad. It sucked.
Yeah. Which is good, because we need that honesty. We don't need people blowing smoke up each other's asses.
Exactly. So now you're back. You've been doing really, really well.
Thank you.
And you're on TV every week.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Because now we've seen it. I guess the word is inclusivity. Is that the proper word? Where there's more Indian representation on television than ever. How do you feel about it?
So, you know, it's a touchy subject, because we're straddling a line here. Again, I'm the beneficiary of that. So I'm okay, sweet, thank you. But at the same time, I'm like, it's great because I'm getting a whole bucket load of people in India, Indo-Canadians, Indo-Americans, people from Australia. They're Indian. They're like, yo, and we all call each other brother. I don't know if you noticed. We're like pro wrestlers. All the Indian guys call each other brothers and cousins and stuff. Brother, bye. Yo, you motivate me. I want to be just like you. I want to be like Bhupinder. And then it pushes people to think like, and again, it's all stereotypical, but it's also true, where if you have an Indian family, you're either going to be like doing the family business thing, you're going to get pushed to be a doctor, pushed to be a lawyer. Like, entertainment, wrestling, sports is very, very like low percentage. And we get to help motivate people. So that for that part is cool. And then the fact that we're being included. So like, it's going to give us the opportunity and the platform to educate people, where we're not like, I wear a turban on TV out of respect for my culture and my religion. I don't do it as a gimmick. I don't do it as like, I want people, go hate me because I wear a turban. I'm going to educate people. So, you know, I can be cool too. I can be a handsome guy. I can be in a suit with a turban and be a good wrestler at the same time. I don't have to be a heel that's doing the 1980s shtick. So that inclusivity, I like that part. The only thing is, like, I hope in the future, in the near future, that people of different ethnicities and backgrounds are all getting their opportunity for their talent, as opposed to just the ethnicity to fill in the quota.
Right. It's funny you say that too. I'll use Bhupinder.
Yeah.
Bhupinder came to the ECW arena.
Yeah.
And they didn't boo him. And I'm looking across, I'm like, is he the only babyface in the industry right now that's Indian?
There's one more on WWE, but he's Pakistani, Mustafa Ali.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that this is cool. And they didn't just sit on their hands for him. He actually earned their respect, and because it's hard work. And I always say this throughout the world. People always judge people. It's by like a book. That's that saying, don't judge a book by its cover, where you'll look around, you go to a bookstore. I want this book. I want this book. You're looking at all these books, but then it's will I open it up and I read what the forward is about the book? And then, I'm going to purchase this book. And these are the beginning stages for like a Bhupinder, because he was presented this book and people looked at the cover and like, not too bad. And now I want to turn the page. And I think that's cool. and you're a big part of watching of his rise early on to the point where you had a really, and then another hardcore city, Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
They're super into all the stuff that you guys are doing, which is really, it's a testament, because as much as, like we talked about, racism in professional wrestling, there's also there's the fans don't give a crap what's going on. And it's like, everybody's included there. They don't care that, you two were Indian. They just cared about, you're the bad guy and he's the good guy, which I think says a lot about, and that's why I always say, for me, I wish the world could see through my eyes, because I see everybody of every race, creed, color, all just sitting and celebrating wrestling. They don't give a shit what you are, as long as we're entertaining.
Yeah. And as long as we're putting on that show and pulling that emotion out of them, which like you're saying, that was a great moment. I remember that in Poughkeepsie, where the fans were like, let them fight. And it was just like, yo, this is cool. They're not looking for an American versus an Indian for once. They're looking for, let's just see two guys go at it right here, right now.
My other favorite is one time, every time you took the Morrissey choke slam, for some reason, and I always forgot to afterwards say, Myers needs to move his chair, because everyone's head just comes within a milli-inch of hitting their head, because he gets up from the table and he leaves his chair there, and dudes are getting choke slammed, and just getting hit on the back of that head of your head would have killed. And I saw it 2 times where I was like, "Ooh, Raj almost got crushed."
Yeah,
I didn't even know it.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I watched that a few times back. I was like, wow, okay, well, it was fun. It was fun, though. I mean,
your facial backing up to Morrissey was what made that whole thing. And then it was just like, oh, shit. And but then you took that choke slam, man. That chair was there. And I remember I was like, ooh, maybe I need to remind Myers he needs to pull his chair out a little bit or take it with him.
Yeah, we weren't even thinking about. I'm in the air. I'm not even thinking about that. I just cover my head and say, whatever happens, happens. Let's see.
Stupid wrestling. What are your goals for yourself within the business? And you also, when we talk about wrestling, and I want to say the beauty of it, because it's the beauty of my life. When we say we're crazy, we love it. But if you really think about it, like everything that from your life has come from professional wrestling, from your dad, and set up a great business, did your family, and then like for me, my houses, my family, everything I have is because of wrestling. And I was actually just watching my trainer Johnny Rodz train. He was wrestling Madison Square Garden. He actually got a victory, which shocked the shit out of me. And I was just like, everything I have was because of him, because he trained me how to be a wrestler. And yes, there's other circumstances, but I had one hell of a trainer. So for like you, what are your goals? Because you don't need WWE, which is good.
Yeah, no. So my goals, like I was just talking about this with one of the guys on our roster here, because they didn't really know my story, so we're chatting, and he's like, "What's your goals? You want to be famous?" Like the question was, "Do you want to be famous?" And I was like, "I don't care to be famous, bro. I care, like, I want to be in a position, like I said, where everybody wants to work with me, or they look as like, and they see my name on the list. I've seen it before. I've seen it in some companies where somebody says, "I'm wrestling Raj Singh." And they like kind of like, I've seen their reaction where like, they kiss their teeth like, all right, well, I'll try to get a good match out of him. I'm like, come on, bro. I had one bad match in my life that you saw. So I want to be a guy like a Josh Alexander, where people say, I'm wrestling Josh tonight. I want to wrestle him. I want to work with him. And then I want to be in that position where production can turn around and say, we need a good promo. We need a good match. We need a good storyline. Raj, we can send him in for that. You want to be the guy that's going to enhance somebody, that's you. If we're going to be the guy that's going to get over or get the crowd popping live, on camera, off camera, let's send him. I want to be relied upon. That's one of my big goals. Within the company, I want to be, of course, in a spot where I'm in the spotlight a little bit more, in the sense of, being a champion, because that will elevate myself out with my outside goals. which one of them is opening up a child and youth care center for like the troubled youth, where I'll also teach professional wrestling or hockey because I have that background with coaching there as well. So that's a personal goal I have after. But yeah, I want to be, I want to go now from pre-shows on the pay-per-views to being on the pay-per-views. And then I want to have the longer matches. And then I also want to be in that position where wrestlers can come to me and I can give advice the same way I'm getting it from you, got it from Bad News, got it from Jerry, got it from my dad, but also not just about wrestling, where it's about like life experiences. And like a lot of the times when you're telling us stories, you're not talking about wrestling, you're talking about life experiences. This happened. This person told me this. And you were telling me stories about Terry and Dory Funk with you, and Paul Heyman with you. And that gets carried down. That's going to get carried down to a guy like me, who I'm going to pass it to the next serious wrestling guy, not just any Joe Blow student, the next serious wrestling guy, because like I said, we care about this. And of course, the honest answer that we all are going to say is we also want to make some money doing this, because I'd be lying if I said I don't want to make some money. Right.
Right. That's really, really cool that you want to help other people. I didn't know those outside goals of yourself, which is very admirable and very, very cool. Total sidebar. How old was your dad when he got brought back to Impact Wrestling? He may be, and what was it there? There was a famous book, and then it was a movie, The Oldest Rookie.
Yeah.
How old was he when he got signed?
65.
That's awesome.
65 years old, getting booked, getting more money than some of the boys on the indies. And like, that's the ongoing. Don used to call him, "Hey, Gama, you want to get booked, brother?" Like, my dad's like, "Booked for what?" I was like, "Bring your turban. We'll make you a rock star in India."
What about the blindfold match he had with Eddie Edwards?
Oh man,
friggin' great.
Awesome. Like I talked to you that day too. I'm like, yo, go talk to my dad. He's legit. Like his heart, like, his palpitations, he's like, they're going off. I'm like, Tom, you got to talk to him and tell him he needs to start hitting the treadmill, because I know Don's crazy ass is going to book him for another match in a couple months. But yeah, that was great, man. And my dad loved it. He still talks about it. Like I'm actually at his house right now. And we were just chatting, and he's like, oh man, because we were talking about when his last match was going to be. And it was Eddie Edwards, but we're going to get him in the ring once in Calgary here so we can have one last match.
Nice. Nah, just we'll book him again in Impact once he wants to come back. That travel schedule is the shits, but
that's exactly, yeah.
That is awesome. I want to be on that show. I don't want to come back until the world clears up. I don't know if I want to cross borders anymore. My own recent scare, but I think that would be one I'd want to see, because he had such an amazing career. Yeah. And you're on the right path, and you're on the right track of life, buddy. And I'm happy I was able to tell a bit of your story. How do fans follow you on social media?
On Instagram and Twitter, it's both True Raj Singh. That's how you'll find me, TrueRajSingh. That's where I post all my pro wrestling stuff. Some personal stuff, I try to keep it, a little bit separate, but there are some times where I'll be posting some family stuff. I'm like I said, big advocate for mental health. And I try my best to help anybody and everybody through those avenues as well.
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy I got you aboard. I'm going to hit you up on some trades again on social media that we'll keep away from everybody on social media, because you're the worst fantasy baseball player. He loves all sports, but yet he won't answer trades for weeks. They're up there. I hate those people.
No, I was going to decline it, but I gotta think about it some more. So.
No, I already took it away. I pulled it off.
All right. Thank you for having me, Tommy. I really appreciate that so much.
Thank you. And that's this week's episode of House of Hardcore Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Peace.